Welcome, Dr. Kalika. It's really nice having you over here, and we are looking forward for this wonderful talk.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and interact with you, like at least through voice, we can
Yes,
interact. Yes.
yes.
And
Thank you, ma'am.
we really appreciate the efforts of the student branch team, specifically Anupama and Rishabh in organizing it. Maybe if
Thank you,
we
ma'am.
have the technical setup, we can start the session.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. So, good evening to all the participants and all the IEEE members and non-members. So, I'm Anupama Thakur. I am the chair for IEEE ACSIR-CSIO student branch, and I formally welcome everyone to the session that is focused on Industry Academia Virtual Meetup 2020. So, as this platform is basically encouraging all the academia and the industry people to interact and to bridge the gap that we have in between both of them, which actually is creating many, problems in students to find some good careers in industry. So focus to that, we are organizing these series, and we are privileged to have with us Ms. Kalika Bali from Microsoft Research India. So she is working as principal researcher at Microsoft Research India and broadly in the area of speech and language technology, especially in the use of linguistic models for building technology that offers a more natural human computer as well as computer mediated interactions and technology for resource languages. She has been working in the field of speech and natural language processing for over 2 decades and believes that local language technology, especially with speech interfaces, can help millions of people gain entry into the world that is still now almost inaccessible to all of them. So, with this great motivation and inspiration, I would like to invite Ms. Kalika Bali for the talk. Yes, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Anupama. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that's very dear to my heart and something that we've been working in our group a lot in Microsoft Research Labs India. Um, how do we build technology for low resource languages? And I will come to various parts of technology building, and some of them and I will try to keep it a little less technical, in the sense like I will not go deep into the actual techniques, which you can if anybody is interested, I can always like follow up with them offline and point them to papers and other resources where they can find more about the actual techniques. But a lot of other things that we as technologists do not think so much about, as well as like the context in which you should be thinking about building technology. So um, this of course is a starting point for me, the very reason that I got into technology at all, right? Because um, I used to work in London and in Europe, and people were always even at that time. This is about 20 years ago. People were still building technologies for English or French or German, and I would think about how in India, we have so many languages with so many speakers, and we weren't that focused on building language technology at that time. But now of course things are much better. But even now, compared to how many languages we have 29 languages which have more than 1 million speakers. Now just imagine that, right? And 16 of these languages enjoy the status of primary official language in some state or the other of India. And the other thing that is very unique to countries like India, where multilingualism exists at the society level, is that there's a lot of code mixing, which means that people very regularly mix these languages when they're talking, right? So India, in that sense, is like a very rich resource for multilingualism, right? But if you look at the actual resources, which I mean digital resources, right? When I talk about low resource languages, I should explain this. Low resource languages doesn't mean that the language has more money or less money, or even that it has more speakers or less speakers. In the context of NLP and speech, when we talk about low resource languages, we specifically mean languages which have very little um, digital resources, so text or speech data, or any other kind of like named entity data or queries, etc., that is available for those languages. So one such resource is, for example, Wikipedia in that particular language. Now, if you look at Indian languages, right, and if you think about, if you see here. Sorry, just a second. I'll just move this. Yeah, if you see here, the top few languages in terms of speakers of India. So if you have Hindi and Bangla and Telugu, Marathi, Tamil, Urdu, Punjabi, Gujarati, Kannada, Malayalam, Oriya, etc. Look at the number of speakers. And this is in 2007. So like now, there are even more. And they rank amongst the world languages in terms of the number of speakers. And now look at the rank in Wikimedia. How much wiki content do they have? Now, if, for example, if you look at Punjabi, for example, there are 57 million speakers in 2007. Now it would be a lot more. It's the 25th largest language in the world. But in terms of Wikipedia content, it's at 101, right? So that's what we mean by low resource languages. So across the world, if we think about this, the problem becomes even more evident, not only in the Indian context, but otherwise also. If you think of highly resourced languages, which is like languages which have a lot of data, and these are maybe like 15 languages out of some 6,000 languages that exist in this world. So English, Chinese, Arabic, Japanese, German, French, these are the 15, Spanish, these are the languages which are highly resourced, for which we have no trouble at all building technologies. Then there are moderately resourced. So, Hindi and Tamil are probably the only Indian languages in that. Polish, Thai, all these languages are at the next level, for which we can at least aspire to build some of the languages. Then they don't have like, it's not as if like whatever resource we want is out there, but there's enough there for us to start off. Then there are under-resourced languages, and we think of them as like languages where there's some data of some sort available. And, these are languages like Kannada, Sindhi, Swahili, where you can start and you have to work hard to kind of get very far in these languages. And then the rest of the languages have no resource at all. And if you think that there are approximately 6,000 languages in the world, and only these till here are the languages for which technologies are available, you can just imagine how many languages and how many people have we just left behind in this um, wave that we have of language technology being available and making um, um, access so easy for its use. Now, in Microsoft Research, we have this project called Elora, where we kind of think about enabling these languages low resources. And to do that, uh, we are interested in that is that it aligns really well with Microsoft's mission, which is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And how can we do this if we do not provide speech and language systems in that particular language? And inside Microsoft, we have the relevant technology and expertise to make this possible. So that was one of the reasons why we started, because personally we were all interested in making this happen, and it kind of aligned with the company's policies and the things that we wanted to do as a as an organization. So how do we go about this? So there were these three main pillars that we looked at. So first was data, of course, because that's where they're lacking. How can we collect data in more effective manner? Then is the actual techniques, like are there new techniques and new ways in which we can do things? Are there new algorithms that we can look at, new models that we can look at, which will help us build technology even when the resources are very few? Then, of course, which is the most important part, is the application. You and I, as technologists, cannot sit here and decide what a community in rural Madhya Pradesh, for example, wants in terms of technology, right? So we have to kind of look at the community and try to understand what their needs are, what they require, and build applications and technologies accordingly. So first, data, which is like the most important bit. Now, why is data even required? Now, I'm sure if you have been following all the, um, current hype about artificial intelligence and the various deep learning based systems and models that are making a lot of news. GPT-3 has been in news for um, a lot of things recently. You know that to build these things, you need enormous amounts of data, even for very basic implementations, right? So if you think of it, so this is NMT means neural machine translations, which is like the current way in which people um, build machine translation systems using deep neural network based um, models powering them. And this, phrase-based statistical machine translation systems, is SMTs, etc., were or an SMT with a very huge language model were the ways we did things earlier. Now, um, this basically shows if you have the corpus of 0.4 million sentences, parallel sentences, then for a neural machine translation, you only get this much um, accuracy. But for these, you got more. But as the corpus increases in size, the accuracies go up. And if you went further down, because the current system use literally billions of words in their models, the accuracies are so much better than the phrase-based system. So you need huge amount of data for these to work. And even in speech, for example, this is word error rate. So for Indian English, for example, if you need 2000 hours of spoken data to get around this much word error rate, right? Now for Hindi, you need this much to get this much word error rate. And you can see then if you have only 50 hours of Marathi data, the best you can do, these are the best systems, right? Heavily fine-tuned. The best you can do is maybe about 28, 29 word error, right? Or even worse than that. And that makes it almost unusable, you know. Um, so that's why data is um, required. Now, how do people go about collecting data? You can go to specialist companies. There are, actual companies and vendors whose business is to collect data, right? And otherwise, the other way that people go is through crowdsourcing. Now, there are issues with both of these. In this case, you're going to be spending a lot of money. So then, any organization that is spending that much money to procure data from a specialist company is going to think of their return on investment. Like if I'm going to spend, $1 million just getting data, then I should at least get a little over that in return, right? Um, so that's like a balance that is difficult to um, reach. With crowdsourcing, the issue is always of data quality. So you're collecting data you have, from the crowd, and you have to know how good this data is, right? What is the quality? In the case of specialist companies and vendors, if they if you find that the data is of low quality, you have these service level agreements, and you can hold them to it, and you can take actions in various ways so that they maintain data quality. But in crowdsourcing, you can do no such things. The other thing with crowdsourcing is that you how would you reach the right audience? Now, I want to work on, say, Santali, and I decide to put a crowdsourcing task on AMT, Amazon Mechanical Turk. How many Santali speakers would be there on Amazon Mechanical Turk for me to be able to get the relevant data, right? Um, Again, if I do some sort of web app, and say, okay, okay, I'm not going to use AMT. Maybe like I'll build a specialist web app on a phone, and I can go to Santali speaking areas. Then you have to think of like whether people there will have phones that support your that can support your app. Will they have network connectivity that can support the use of the app? So is the device itself accessible or not? And there are a few projects and companies which are looking into these particular aspects of data collection. And even in Microsoft, we had, put out, we realized that this was a problem, and this was preventing a lot of people from actually working on a lot of languages and these issues. So we had put out, um, about 50 hours in total, like 50 hours each in 3 languages, Tamil, Telugu, and Gujarati, so that people could build automatic speech recognition systems for Indian languages. And some of these teams did extremely well with just 50 hours of data. We had teams from various universities and other organizations like startups who came up with just 14% word error rate with this small amount of data. So, by using various techniques, so it's possible if the data is out there and you have access to data, then people can build on each other's work, can experiment more, see what works, what doesn't work, and we can kind of foster an ecosystem around it. Okay. Speech corpus is available for anybody who wants to work on this. So there are 50, like I said, of Telugu, Tamil, and Gujarati. For research purposes, this is freely available to anyone who wants to work on it. So if you are interested in this, I strongly encourage you to take a look at this. Another project that we have is called Project Karya, which is essentially, this is started as a brainchild of my colleague, Dr. Vivek Shishadri. And he wanted to basically build a crowdsourcing platform that would provide digital work to low-income workers. So this was kind of like considered as a parallel to the NREGA scheme that we have for providing work to certain parts of the country where and communities where work is not that easily available. So this was the idea that what if we could have like a digital NREGA, right? So there are lots of there's a substantial Indian population which is literate, right? They can read and write with ease in their own languages, but they might not have access to jobs, or they might not even their social structures might not allow them to go for full scale jobs, or they might be living in such regional areas where it's not possible for them to go and do a full-time job. So, but this is a huge population which is there that we tap for productive work, for you know um, an economic benefit to both the communities as well as the country. So the idea here was to do just that, to provide micro tasks small digital tasks to such communities, and also in the same data um, annotated, designed, collected through this platform. So one of the field studies that we did for Karya was in a very small, really tiny village in Maharashtra. It's actually a village right in the middle of a national forest, like national reserve. It has no electricity. It has no TV, no phone. Like, I went there for a field study, and if you wanted a phone signal, there is like a small hill nearby. You have to climb the hill and wave your phone around to kind of get any signal on that, right? So no radio, nothing at all, right? So, but the most of the 200-ish population of the village has studied till class 9th in Marathi. So they all can read and write Marathi really well. So we went there and tried to collect speech data for Marathi from these villagers. And we simultaneously, we also did this field study in Kolhapur. So this village was called Amle. So we did it in Kolhapur amongst the urban poor, people who uh, lived in slums in and around Kolhapur. And we also did this study in Mumbai with students, college students. And, and we were able to collect, as you can see, over 100 hours of data, right? Um, so many from the college students and the maximum from urban poor. But we found that the people in Amle, really had a very positive response to this work. Firstly, there was a lot of linguistic pride. So people felt as if they're doing something for their language. So they really wanted to do it. Secondly, the fact that they in Amle, in the village and all, they kind of did it as a community. So, people would sit together and do it. They would help each other out. They would check on each other. That really helped. And the other thing was the effect of storytelling. So they really enjoyed the fact that the data that we'd given to them was stories. So they were so starved of material to read in that village that they would look forward to the stories in this task. And a lot of the people, they would listen to these stories in the morning, while doing the work, and in the evening they would gather the entire village and retell those stories to them. So we found, so our purpose was to show that it is completely possible to use Karya kind of platforms and tap this population that people don't typically think, that people staying in these far off, far flung, remote villages would be able to provide us this data to help build technologies. But we proved with the Karya field study that that's completely possible. But one of the biggest challenges we had was that how do we know that this data is good enough, right? There was no Marathi speech recognition system that we could just pump the data through it and bring it out and check the word error rates. So we came up with method where we kind of used a Hindi acoustic model. So the acoustic model for a related language, that is Hindi, and we kind of use that to align the acoustics and the data within a certain error margin to say that this is valid data and this is not. And we found that over 76% of this data that we had collected by this method was good quality data. We also did, on the rest of the approximately 25%, 24% of the data that was error prone, we did an error analysis and we found that most of the errors were to do with people stopping and speaking. So, instead of saying, say, for example, data evaluation, they would say data evaluation, right? So it's not as if they were saying the wrong thing. It's just that they were repeating, or they were hesitating, or there was some background sound which interrupted what they were saying. So it wasn't, the data itself wasn't that full of errors, but there were other issues which we took as a feedback to improve the app and the instructions and the methodology better. Um, the second thing I would talk about is this project that we did with Pratham Books, which we call AI empowered manual translations. So I don't know if you people know about Pratham Books, but it's also been in news a lot because the two economics Nobel laureates last year. Uh, so all the Nobel Prize winners have to give one thing as that represents their hopes and is close to them to the Nobel Museum in Stockholm, which is kept as something that represents them in that museum. And Abhijit Banerjee and his wife, they both chose Pratham Books as their contribution to the Nobel Museum. So Pratham Books is a not-for-profit organization, and its objectives are to provide affordable books in as many languages as possible for children. So like, a book in every child's hand. So when we started talking to them and we started, um, trying to understand the difficulties that they have, one of the things that they said was that they do these translations manually. They don't want to do machine translation. They want to do them manually because these are translations for children's books, right? But they want something that would assist the translators to do this in a better way, right? Um, I'm sure like almost everybody here is at least bilingual. We know two languages, right? And we do sometimes get stuck. Like I speak Hindi, for example, and if somebody was turned to me and say, Kalika, what's the Hindi for, and say some English sentence. For 2 minutes, I'll be like, yeah, just a minute, let me think, right? Sometimes you get stuck. So how can, when people who are manually translating these things, how can we help them with this? So with that in mind, we came up with this thing. So this is how their Storyweaver is their platform. This is how it looks like. Basically, they'll show, in this case, Hindi, the book that needs to be translated. So, if you were to go there and sign up as a translator, you will see this. Why haven't you done your homework? Miss, it's all the cat's fault in English. And here you can then start typing it in your own language, right? Now, it's all the cat's fault. The Hindi for that would be, madam, वो तो सब बिल्ली की गलती है. But maybe you'll think, बिल्ली की गलती है, बिल्ली ने करा है, बिल्ली से गलत काम हो गया है. Like, what would you exactly want to say in there that makes the most sense, right? So that's where we wanted to help. So we decided to make a tool which we call the Interactive Neural Machine Translation Tool, INMT, where we took a neural approach from a sequence to sequence thing, where we kind of provided predictive translation suggestions. So if you're typing in from English to Hindi, it will give you predictive translations for Hindi as you keep typing. So I'll show you what that means. So for example, here as well. So when you start typing this, it'll go from मैं यहाँ, and it'll give you यहाँ पूरे परिवार, यहाँ अपने पूरे, यहाँ अपने परिवार, and then as you write the next word, it'll give you the next suggestion, etc., etc., and it'll go there. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'll try. Yeah, it does. So let me just, I hope people can see this. This is basically a very basic demo of how this works. People are familiar with this, with the predictive text suggestions that we have on our phones, right? And mails, etc. So this is very similar to that, except that we are trying to do this across languages and not in that particular language. So normally when we are doing this on our phone, when we are texting on phone or sending a WhatsApp message or something, it will show us predictions in that particular language, right? So this is across languages as we type. So, obviously this has a lot of advantages where, if we are if the translation is translator is has this help, they are hopefully able to kind of do this faster in a more efficient manner with a minimal of typing, right? And hopefully it also helps them with a higher quality translation. Sometimes you're just stuck for that one word, you don't know how to translate that one word, and here you can get suggestions for it. And currently we've just completed a user study with this INMT tool with Tamil English and Hindi English translations. And we're just looking at the data to see, what kind of feedback we have from the actual users on how to make this tool better and more useful to them. So, I mean, um, the I'll come to that later. So now coming to techniques, this was mainly about creating data and what kind of things that you need to do to create data. Now, at the techniques level, some of the things that we've done in speech recognition area is to bootstrap from a related language. So very much like the Marathi example, what we've done is that, we've kind of tried to see the how close certain languages are, and we kind of use data from a closer language to um, mm, bootstrap or expand mm, the phone set or the sounds set of that language, and um, kind of cover up for the lack of data for that. So an example would be, say, Hindi and Marathi, right? So you have lots of Hindi data, but very little Marathi data. So you build a system with Hindi and then use the Marathi data to fine tune that system so that, you're using the basic things from Hindi, but Marathi then finally converts it to a workable Marathi system. So this is how we've been doing, like some of the things that we've been doing on the technical side to look at a low resource language. Now, this for the translator also, we kind of try to do the same, like, use, say, uh, the translation models with which were using bilingual data to kind of generate more data, and use that in an optimal way to train more this thing. Now, this is how we had done it now, but currently, everyone knows about these massively multilingual models like MBERT and Extreme, etc., and how they're supposed to work across 100 languages and 110 languages or 95 languages, etc., etc. So, what can we use? Can't we now just use this? Is the problem just solved? And we have these models, and they're supposed to work for 120 languages, and we can just use these, and our um, challenges are over. Now, these are definitely promising way forward, right? These are essentially universal language models with cross-lingual transfer learning, and you can use these very effectively across many languages, right? But the issue still remains of data, right? You do need data for pre-training, for fine-tuning, and more importantly, for testing. So while people are able to get some pre-training, fine-tuning data, to be able to test these models in an effective way, nobody really goes and tests them for 100 languages, right? They will test them for whatever 10 languages, 15, 20 languages that are essential for their work, and then not really test. So though they might have, the models might have seen some of these languages, we don't know how they really work on these languages. Okay? So that's one thing. The second thing is, currently these 100 languages, like I told you, there are 6,000 languages in the world. So currently, 100 languages is, not a lot. It covers a lot of languages, but it doesn't cover a lot of other languages. They're just left behind, right? So, and the third thing is that these models are very resource intensive to run and to train. people are working on how to make them more effective, like computationally less expensive. But currently, to train any of these models with a new language data, or to even run these models for a task is quite resource intensive. You need very high computational power to make them work. And some of the languages that we talk about, and some of the applications and communities that we work with, do not have that kind of economic or even infrastructural facilities to make that happen. So yes, they are definitely a very promising way forward, but right now it's not going to solve our current problem immediately. Now, applications. How am I doing on time? Yeah, I'm fine on time. So now I will come to applications. When with these technologies, the first most important thing that we need to say is, can we truly impact a low resource language communities? You know, sometimes, most of the times when people are building technologies, we get so caught up in, especially it's really true for NLP and speech technologies, where we are so caught up in chasing SOTA, that it's called, right? Like, which is the state of the art? How do we get this 1%? 1% is a lot, but like even 0.5% increase in our accuracies. How can we show better numbers than the last best paper or the last best um, thing that Google or Microsoft or Facebook put out, right? But in terms of technology, we have to take a step back and think, why are we building this technology? What is the use of this technology, right? Who are the people who are going to use it? Is that language community? Suppose you go and build a huge speech recognition system for Gondi or Tantali or whatever. Can they even use it? Is it of any use for them? What are their requirements from technology, right? They probably don't need, to right now they probably don't need an Xbox or some gaming system on uh, to be able to talk to them, right? They probably need something that provides them information in a meaningful manner. So these are the kind of things we have to keep in mind, and the questions we always need to answer if we are building technology, because we are building technology for real people, not for putting into papers, or not for showing or winning some award or whatever. So one of the things that we have been really working very closely with, and the thing that I work is this work that we do with CGNet Swara, which is a voice portal. It's again a not-for-profit voice portal for the tribal regions of Chhattisgarh. So it looks like this. Um, it's a place where Gondi speakers, which is the tribal, Gondi is a tribal language of the region, and Gondi speakers can come, put their problems, access other information, etc., on this portal, and can do this through phones. And they have been typically doing this through IVR technology. And they do have a human in the loop, a moderator, who basically is moderating the content that goes up on the portal and can be made available. So coming to Gondi, Gondi is actually a South Central Dravidian language, but it is spoken in the states of Chhattisgarh, Andhra, Odisha, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. So it's heavily influenced by Hindi, Telugu, Marathi, and Kannada, depending on which region. And it's spoken by nearly 3 million people, right? There's absolutely zero technology support for Gondi. There's zero resource available for Gondi. But the people there, the people of the community are very, very motivated to do something about it. And if you know a little bit about the current affairs and history of the area, you also know that Chhattisgarh is one of the most strife in, um, parts of the country. They've had a lot of insurgency issues in that area, because of which the local people have suffered in many, many, many ways, right? And least of all is like They don't have education in their own language. They don't have books in their own language, etc., etc. So there are many such problems with that the community has been facing. So we kind of did a workshop on language technology for Gondi, where we got academics, we got people from Pratham, we had experts from various universities. But most important, like we had CGNet Swara and of course Microsoft Research and IDC from Microsoft were also part of it. But most importantly, there were people from the community itself who were part of this workshop. So we actually sat with the people and brainstormed on what they thought were the requirements, what they thought they needed, and how technology could enable them. Instead of we sitting there and making assumptions and thinking that, okay, we'll make this application and it'll be very useful for them, and we'll make that application and it'll be very useful for them. We actually sat and heard them out. So for 2 days we did this brainstorming, and at the end of 2 days we came up with like certain plans and certain things that we will focus on. And as a part of that, the first thing that happened was that Pratham Books did workshops and trained the Gondi speakers on how to translate and work on their platform Storyweaver. And for the first time ever, 200 children's books were made available in Gondi for the Gondi speaking community. So this is like the first time ever any such book was available for them. From our side, we had an intern, and in collaboration with Triple IT Naya Raipur, we came up with this thing that we call Adivasi Radio. It's an Android app which has been released. I think it was released last year, and basically it's a one-stop place for Gondi speakers to access news, CGNet Swara, books that are available like Pratham Books, etc. And Wire does one, video news coverage every week in Gondi, so that they could speak in Gondi. So we kind of, did a made a worked on a Hindi text-to-speech system as well as which could then read out Gondi, because the sound system of Gondi is very similar to the sound system of Hindi. So we worked on that and were able to build this in. Now, going forward with this, what has happened is that this Adivasi radio, we also, the CGNet Swara people also tried to get like machine translation data from Hindi to Gondi, done through this Adivasi radio app as well. And, one of the effects of the lockdown was that people got really going on this data collection thing, because they basically didn't have time to do, they didn't have anything else to do and lots of time in their hand. So they started doing a lot of this data collection, data translation from Hindi to Gondi. As a result, we now have a corpus of data, and very recently, we have come up with, that INMT, the Interactive Neural Machine Translation System. We have come up with a mobile version of that, and that is actually now, we've finished the working on it, so it is now able to do Hindi Gondi. So if like somebody is translating from Hindi into Gondi, it provides them support for that. And in the next 1 month, we will be releasing that also into open source. By the way, INMT is available in open source, so anyone can go look at the Hindi and English models, and there is documentation there of if you want to kind of build your own models. It runs on open neural machine, open NMT at the back. So everything in that is open. So you can actually, if you have data, you can train your own models and work with the tool to collect more data as well. And this mobile version of INMT also we will be putting out, within a month. We're in the process right now with the Gondi models and the Gondi data. So the hope is that if we put out these tools and we put out these models for these languages, other people get inspired. to do this for their own languages, for the languages that they care about. And they can, use our tools to build upon so that they then can, create technology or applications or data for languages that, other mainstream products are not really worried about or thinking about. So to end, technology for low resource language definitely enables communities. Okay, we have seen this again and again and again. The first time anybody is able to use technology and in their own language can access any information on their phone, the joy that lights up their face is like, you have to just see it. All three things are important: data, techniques, and applications all play a role in this. You can't do one and say, okay, I've done my job, kind of a thing. Sometimes you do need to think in an unconventional way. You can't just take the main things and just run with it. You have to think of things in sort of a roundabout way, or like, if this doesn't work, then what can I do? If I don't have these things available, then what can I do to this? And our idea, at least, is to start with Indian languages and expand to the world. So it's not as if we only work on Indian languages. We are in India, we are Indians, we know these languages, we know these communities, we know this country. So the idea is that we do this here and use that then to expand to languages in Africa, in Europe, in other parts of Asia, in the Pacific regions, in South America. There are so many languages in the world that nobody even is thinking about those communities, and how technology is going to just leave them behind if we don't do anything about it. And I'd like to end with this quote from United Nations thing. They said that the biggest, one of the most important obstacles to e-inclusion, which basically means making digital world open to everybody, and making the technologies available to everybody, is um, language. If you do not work on making language technologies, you can have the best technologies in the world, you can have the most fancy, the coolest, the most advanced technologies, you're still leaving people behind. You're not taking everybody with you. And I'd like to end here and take some questions, if I may.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for a very insightful session. So now the session is open to all our participants. So if they have any questions or any they would like to interact with ma'am, so they can unmute themselves, or they can just write down their questions in the chat box window and we can take up them.
Okay, somebody has written, how is it different from Google Translator? Did you mean how is the INMT different from Google Translator?
Yes, I'm probably
Okay,
participant.
so INMT is not a translator. It doesn't translate. It's a human who is translating. So it is to aid the human who is translating and not provide translations. So as you are translating, it will give you suggestions phrase by phrase. It won't translate the entire sentence for you. Okay? So if I say, मैं आज सुबह उठ के खाना बनाने रसोई में गई. So when I write मैं आज, it will say सुबह, शाम, रात. It will give me those options. Yeah, it is predictive text technology, but it is across language. It's not in the same language, right? So that it doesn't have the entire context of Hindi as I'm translating, but it has the entire context of English. So it's using English to predict Hindi. And
Okay,
it
ma'am.
does have some machine translation models at the back, but it's not doing translation. So to do something like a Google Translator or even any machine translation system, the amount of data that you need is huge. Okay, parallel data between the two languages. But to do this INMT tool, you do not need that much data to create the tool and to help. Is it working parallel in both languages? Yes, it is. Thank you.
Any other questions from the participants?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good
Hello.
evening, sir.
Good evening, Kalika. Good evening.
Good,
Sorry,
good evening.
I I was unable to listen and speak at early time, but yes. Now back to this. I like the real efforts ground to ground level in Karya and Swara and many other. Where you on one hand you are saying it's very low resource. On the other hand, so I'm just assuming how is it, and you practically said that these technologies are for those people. So where are the societal gaps being addressed? Because we might be bridging some technological gaps. At some stage, you also showed that you could do something immediately within no time, some books and all for Gondi, and so I'm now somewhat confused. So are we doing for long-term gains to these languages that we will be able to catch them sometime? Or are we going to give them immediate returns uh,
Yeah. So
to any language, to low resource societies?
yeah,
So,
so that's why, like, in my view, it is multi-pronged approach. So you try to tackle some of the current issues the way you can, in the hope of creating, long-term benefits also. Now, issue is, like, I've seen this in India a lot. Now, when I first came back to India to work here, um, you know, um, the whole world was in mm, this statistical methods, right? And we were still doing rule based. Now by the time, like, we kind of started creating the data that was required for statistical thing, the whole world moved again. And then we started, like, worrying about more. So I personally, this is my personal view, and that's what I try to kind of influence the projects that I work on. I don't think that we should wait till we have enough data or enough things to do to go for the long term thing. I think while we are tackling smaller problems and trying to do things, we have to start somewhere. So let's get started, and as we are working on the low hanging fruits and uh, you know uh, smaller pieces of the puzzle, we are building the infrastructure for the long term thing. So it's like, we started with doing, we said we will only do this Adivasi radio, right? The machine translation thing for Gondi Hindi was like, Array, where will we get the data? So then the whole Pratham books thing happened. Pratham got involved in it, and they started creating the, training the people, and then people started creating the books. So we got data from there. Then this whole Adivasi radio, which was supposed to be just an access point, right? It was just for them to get access. They kind of twisted it to start creating data on it. So we got more data. So then we were able to create the machine translation models to do the INMT. Now, when they take INMT out to the field, the CGNet Swara people, then hopefully, like, within 6 months, we'll have enough data to build a real machine translation system. Now, if we create a machine translation system between Hindi and Gondi, say by sometime in next year, we means, like, as a community we create that, then Hindi English translator systems are available. So technically, anything that is there in the world is then available to the Gondi speaker, because you can do English to Hindi and then Hindi to Gondi, right? You don't need to do an English to Gondi system, which will then require all kinds of other issues.
yeah, thanks. That makes a lot of sense. Yes,
Thank
moving from across the languages, taking advantages of the other. Yeah, please. Nice,
yeah,
nice. Got some sense out of it. Thanks, thanks.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am, there's some question in the chat box window.
Yeah.
So,
So somebody is
yeah.
saying, can we implement in any Indian language and how can we contribute to this project? So I will, um, how do I do this? I can send the link for the GitHub link for where the INMT project is, and you can take a look. And technically, yes, you can use it for any language that you want to build it for.
Okay, ma'am. So, any other question from the participants?
Kalika, that was a insightful talk. I really liked that thoroughly.
If there is none, then
No,
I
I
have
can hear
few.
somebody speaking.
Uh,
Okay.
so
Sorry.
I just wanted to speak for a minute. Yeah.
Anybody raising question, please?
I can hear you. Is that
I'm Sardana.
So,
So I will. Yeah. Let
so
others have. Yeah.
Dr.
Please go ahead.
So Dr. Aparna is speaking.
Okay. So sorry for that confusion. Firstly, it was very insightful, and two main learnings which I took from this talk is one, the way you just didn't restrict to only the technology aspects, but also brought in the community who's going to be the end beneficiary from the start till the end. So that's a very good learning for almost all of us who are working social application projects. And the second, in the technology aspect, the way you went really, it's a nice guideline for us that don't target a very big thing, take a small part, do it, then jump on to the next thing so that the applications expand themselves. These two learnings I really liked a lot. Thank you so much.
thank you.
I had just one question, not question, I'm just curious. We hear that there's a lot of traditional knowledge about medicines and culture, which is only in the specific culture, regional languages. So any work in that front where you specifically focus on either fetching the medicinal aspects or the treasure we have in that direction, anything on that direction to work or working on?
Yeah, so thank you. To answer your last question first, we particularly are not doing that, but I know that there are researchers in IIT Kharagpur who are working on this, and even like with CG Netswara and IIIT Naya Raipur, there was this whole discussion on how traditional medicine repositories or even like a cultural repository for the community can be created, and so the idea there was that if there are people who can create that repository, then language technology applications can be built on top of it to access it. So think of it like this, like from my perspective, the language technology part is to give people access to that. So if there is a library, for example, then my role would be to build a portal to the library, but somebody has to create that library first. So that was, but there were discussions, and I know that in IIT Kharagpur they are doing some work around traditional knowledge databases, etc. But we are not working on that. That's not like in my expertise. So and the part that you said about like breaking things into like starting with somewhere small. So I would like to say that from my view, dream big. The vision should be as big as you can make it. So, the vision should be huge. But I think our role is to make that vision into smaller, um, tackleable paths, so that we can tackle and reach that vision. So the vision should never be small. Vision should always be huge. But you have to start with smaller problems, and I think um, the role of technologists, researchers, experts in the area is to break that vision into smaller parts which are doable.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. So now I would like to request Dr. Siddhana for a vote of thanks. Yes, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kalika, for really sharing the Microsoft's efforts and your team's efforts in a very long term on one hand and short term immediate benefits to the society on the other hand, and also showing the students how the research and business work together, and that too in a multi-pronged approach in time, space, and people. So thank you very much for this efforts. In fact, much of it was not so well known to others, to students, and to us even. That industries like Microsoft and others are attempting, and it shows really how visionary the leadership in such industries can bring changes to the society in all respects. So thank you, nice hearing you, and look forward to any contribution from students, faculty who came up today and who would see such presentations, outcomes of this later on. So we look forward to any more possible interactions in the future. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. What is it possible for me to send the GitHub link to you, Anupama, and then you can
Yes,
send it
yes,
to
ma'am.
everybody?
Surely.
I'll.
Yes, ma'am. You can share with us, and then we can share with the participants.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Dr.
ma'am.
Sardana, for having me here. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.